Hey everyone, this is VidGames Pete. Um, Wanted to do a tutorial on using the uh, area monitors here in Halo Infinite Forge. So I got a little bit of stuff set up here for us to do it. Um, Check it out. Um, what we're going to do here is we're going to make it so that we have an area monitor right here in the center of this circle. And when you walk into it, it's going to trigger these walls to do something, which I figured we might push them up into the ceiling and then have them like drop down or something like that. Um, so the first thing first, with area monitors, you have to have something that can have some object that can have a boundary, and a lot of the objects can. What I like to use, and sorry for the huge circle on the screen here, but I like to use a vehicle blocker, especially in places where you're not going to have vehicles at all. Because basically, when you run the game, it's invisible. You can walk through it. It doesn't impact anything, but you can set your monitor to be exactly where you want it, and it's entirely invisible. Um, so let me just show you here on the settings. You have to go down here in the object properties to boundary. So you have different types. There's square and cylinder. You can just choose whatever fits best for what you need. I got cylinder here. Um, Keep in mind when you first turn on a boundary, oftentimes it has these settings are all zero, so it'll look like there's nothing there until you start setting like a radius, a top, a bottom. And then if you want it to be visible when you're actually like playing the game, you can just turn show on or off. If it's off, it'll be visible when you select the item. Um, but keep in mind, you have to have this boundary set for an area monitor to work because it needs to be able to detect if you went into a boundary or not, or if an object went in there. So we've got our area monitor set up. I also made it really tall because sometimes if you have it too short and you're expecting a player to go into that boundary, it may not register quite right if it's like ankle high or something like that. So you want to make sure it's a big enough boundary that it'll register the player went into it, and then you'll be good. So I'm going to actually grab this because I haven't added it to our graph yet. And then we'll add object reference. So it's just called vehicle blocker 111. The next thing in your nodes here, you're going to want to do a couple things. First thing is you have to grab a variable for an area monitor. Uh, and then the next thing is there's an event, which I think, yeah, it's in the just events on object entered area. Keep in mind there's also on object exited area. So you could set up something if you want something to happen when someone leaves a certain area. You can use that as well. We'll just use on object entered the area. We're not going to get too complicated with this one, but what I like to do is just kind of, I've been trying to keep things organized by kind of doing columns. It keeps things from getting real messy. So we're going to plug in our area monitor into that, and then we're going to plug the area monitor variable into our vehicle blocker. So now we've got our actual object with a boundary going into an area monitor, getting plugged into the event, and now when we connect something here, it's going to do something. The other thing to keep in mind is this object part of the node. This is actually going to send whatever the object is that's entered the area to whatever else we want. So in a lot of cases, if you're working with a player, it's going to be the player that entered the area. I got really confused on this when I first started because I was spawning. I had a pointer that was actually in the area when it would start, and it would actually trigger my area monitor because there was a pointer already in the area. So every time I tried to do anything, my area monitor had already been triggered. So I'm going to show you real quick an easy way to get around that if you want to make sure that no objects that might be in your area are going to trigger the area monitor. Um, what you're going to do is you're going to want a logic branch, okay? Because we're going to check if something's correct or not. And then there's a node for checking if something is a player. Uh, there it is. Get is player. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug the object that enters the area into this, and it's going to say, is it a player or not, and send true or false to our condition here. So nice thing about this is, and if you take a look in our area, we actually have an object already in there. I don't know if that will trigger it. That's something already kind of baked into the map, which I can't change or move, but we have that invisibility. That could be triggering our area, but now that we're checking for only a player, it's not going to trigger the area or the area monitor. So next thing we need to do is, let's move this over so we have a little more room to work on. So right here, actually, if we wanted it to be anything but a player that's entering the area triggers it, you could just go off the false area, or off the false part of the branch, or the true part will be anything that is a player, but we're going to use the player part. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go into object transform. We'll just move object to transform here. So we're going to take those walls, I'm going to move them upward, but we're going to have them come back down to where they're currently sitting. And so in this case, so we have a spot for an object. This is a player that's going to be coming through here. So we're not connecting that. We actually need to get our objects onto this node graph. And then we'll also need our destination object, which I've added some pointers already. Movement curve, we're going to just do straight up and down. So we'll keep it linear, which is our default. And then duration in seconds, let's, I don't know, we'll do 2 seconds. Let's just see what that looks like. So then here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab our wall and our pointer and our other wall and our pointer. And let's take those into our node graph here. Oh, you know what? It didn't bring our walls because I never set them as dynamic. Change that to dynamic. Luckily, I didn't stretch our walls at all, otherwise it would have messed everything up. But so they're in the same spot because they were the original size. And actually, I need to grab those again. There we go. Wall 1, wall 2. So I'm going to do another tutorial about how to use object lists, but for right now we'll just do it the normal way. So in order to do this for 2 walls, we're going to have to basically duplicate this same code for a second wall. And we'll go through that. But or what we could do if we wanted to be them in a sequential order, we could actually do a second move object to transform, put it here, and then just have the second wall move after the first wall, which that works awesome for certain things. But in this case, if we want the walls to go up the same time, be kind of like a, a shield for whoever's walking into the middle, we want to have them happen at the same time as well. So first one, we'll just start with wall 1. We're going to put the object that we're moving here. Pointer is going to be our destination object. And then keep in mind, we haven't actually put the wall where we're going to move it from yet. It's still in the same location as the pointer. And the reason I do that is I set the wall where I want it to be in the endpoint, and then I can create a pointer and put the coordinates exactly the same position. Then when I move the wall away, I know that the wall is going to move to where I want it. So let's just start with this one, and then where's our wall 1? This is wall 2. So wall 1 here. I'm going to grab this, and then I'm going to just, I'll just move our vertical position here, the Z, all the way up. So we're going to just move it till it's like up into the ceiling. We'll put it at 65. Okay. It's way up in the ceiling. I don't even think you can see it. Then the nice thing is now that I know what that one is, I can just change this one to 65 so we don't have to mess with it later. So now we have our wall where we want it to start at. We've got our area monitor set up. So we only have one wall set up right now, but let's give it a shot and see what happens. So we walk into the middle. Oh, there it is. It's like a garage door coming down. And what you could do is you could actually set up a, you know, let's do that. Let's forget the other wall just for this tutorial. Um, we're gonna need another pointer. Let's see if I can go up in the ceiling. Yeah. So let's actually do this. Let's mess with the when object leaves the area. So I'm going to grab this pointer, and what I like to do is if you get right above or right on the side of something when you do duplicate, you can actually get it to keep a lot of the same coordinates. So now we're just going to have to mess with the Z coordinate on this, and I'll move it to, yeah, we'll move it to 65, I think it was. Yeah. So now we've got our block up in the ceiling, we've got our pointer, that would be our other destination. And then we need to move our pointer in. So I didn't name this pointer, but we probably should. We'll just name this pointer 1 top. That way we know the top versus the bottom. And then go back in here to our graph. We can actually use everything we've already set up here. We're gonna put these on the side. I think it'll actually be more interesting to do an object exited area. Oh, I clicked the wrong button there. All right, so we need to go up here to events and grab an on object exited area. So we can actually do pretty much exactly the same on everything with this. Grab our area monitor. Oh, and actually we need this too. I don't know why I'm doing that, but here we go. Okay, so we've got the same object as the same area for our area monitor. We're going to do another branch just to be sure that we're checking, making sure it's a player and not a random object that's going to trigger this. And then we need to connect our object down there. So our object for move, we're going to have it transform upward. Oh. So our object that we're transforming is that we already have it on the board here, so I'll just use that. But instead of pointer 1 being the location, and I'll move this down here, we want pointer 1 top to be where it goes in the end. So what this should do hypothetically, and we'll run it and make sure it works, is when you're standing in that middle circle inside the boundary, it makes the wall come down, but when you leave that boundary, it'll make the wall go back up into the ceiling. So let's give this a go and see if that worked. Okay, now let's walk out of it. Oh, it didn't work. Let's take a look and see what we did wrong here. Oh, you know what? I didn't reconnect the area monitor. That's why. I was like, this seems like it should work. Try that again. Okay, so we've got our wall coming down. And then when we leave, it goes back up. Anyway, that's a quick tutorial on area monitors. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something out of it. I am gonna maybe even tonight do a tutorial on using object lists and how you can simplify some of the code instead of duplicating entire groups of code. You can use object lists to have it do multiple things. So stay tuned for that. And as always, thanks for checking out the video. Hope you learned something, and we'll put it to use as Forge comes out. Have a good day.